All right, welcome to the next video in my Building Tribal series. This is a little bit of day in the life type stuff, but today I want to show you how I designed this year's run hat. And I want to walk you through my design process, where I took inspiration, and how I basically bring the exact hat that I am wearing to life. All right, so starting here with actually last year's run hat, because this is where I basically wanted to launch from as I'm like making changes and making tweaks. So this is the final mock-up from last year's hat. We had basically the black hat base, and then we had the tribal markings on the back as like a bit of a background, which I loved. And then I didn't just want to have a plain black hat, so we got the tribal paint stripes and the tribal colors basically running on the top of the hat towards the back. And while I liked this hat, I'm kind of a perfectionist on some of this design stuff. And I was a little bit bummed that the colors weren't perfect. Most importantly, here was the yellow. The yellow that's in this run hat is supposed to be orange. And this is just part of me like building out the branding of tribal training and having like the exact Pantone colors that are consistent across all the different pieces of merch that I build. And that was the number one thing that I wanted to correct off of this. But the second thing was that like something about this design just didn't really sit right with me. I don't know if it was like the way that the lines and the paint stripes start like from the perfectly crisp part on the top of the hat here through the back. I liked it, but I was just like, I want something that's a little bit more just like tried and true, a little bit more like strength in terms of like representing the brand and just being like a staple image. And I want to show you next a couple of things that I took. All right. So, first hat that I took inspiration from was this BPN Endurance Hat Go One More, is what they call it. And what I really loved about this, or at least what caught my eye, is I saw Nick Bare wearing this. I think for one of his ultras, it might have been the 100 miler that he did. It might have been the Leadville documentary. I'm not sure. But I loved how this was basically a pure black hat, but it's got a standout color on it. And that gives it a little bit of flair. It gives it a little bit of uniqueness. But when I'm talking about like strength of brand and like just a solid product that's like a foundation of the brand, there was too much design work going on the tribal training hat from last year with all the paint stripes, all the different colors. I liked it, but I really wanted like a staple product that gave me the same type of feeling that I see when I see this, which is just like, this thing is tried and true. This thing could be around for 100 years and it's still going to hit. And I took a little bit of inspiration from this and then one other hat that I'll. All right. Next hat that I took inspiration from was Chad Wright. Chad Wright, badass dude, former Navy SEAL, big time ultra runner, and he's got this brand 3 of 7. And I loved how the same themes from the BPN hat showed up here with a little bit of a different flair. So, still, right, the all black hat, very standard, very strong. Still got the simple logo at the center front of the hat, and still just got one other color. That's what stood out to me. One other color. So he's got the red trim here that goes all the way around the brim. There's even a little bit of red in the logo. And so when I saw these two hats, I was like, all right, boom. Like, this is something that I want to model this next tribal training hat off of, because I want to have a run hat that like can stand the test of time. Like, I'm going to be building different run hats. I'm going to be getting new ones made, I'm sure. But I don't want to have like this exotic design every year. Like, I want something strong like these two hats represent. So let's get into how I started to build out what eventually became this hat. All right. So next thing I did, and this is how I start all merch design inside of tribal training, is I go to my iPad and I'm going to play here basically like a time lapse of me sketching this product out and bring it to life. So I start by just taking a plain black hat that I just pull off of Google Images, and I start to bring in and drag in the tribal logos And then I'm like playing with colors, sketching them around, using old mock-ups, and basically just like really ruggedly sketching this thing out. So I'll play this again here. So I start by just getting the plain black hat. Then over here, I'm playing with the logo and I'm coloring in orange on the logo just by hand here. Then next thing is I'm going to drag it in. So let me pause this real quick here. So I drag in the logo. This is in Procreate on my iPad. And then I brought in the 2023 hat so that I could just get some images pulled off of this. So again, I'm tracing out the axe here. And at this point, I'm trying to decide if I want the axe to be orange or where the orange coloring will look best. Like on that BPN hat, the BPN logo is in the middle and it's red. So that's what I'm modeling this off of here. And I'm just seeing like, how is this going to look? How is this going to show up? I'm trying to trace out basically, I just used right there. I just basically traced out so that I could see the background markings, because the 2023 run hat had the background markings and that plain black hat that I'm tracing has no markings. So I want to see what the markings are going to look like. So that's what I'm doing here. Basically tracing it out. I had to drag over another image so that I could get the paint stripes out of there, because I want to just see this as plain black with the markings. And now I drag it in. So now at this point, I'm thinking, okay, I've traced in the orange trim and I've got the Axe logo as orange, but I don't really love how the Axe logo looks as orange. So I'm starting to make a couple of fine-tuned tweaks. I erase that. And then next thing is I'm adding the orange stripe to basically the border of the logo. Let it play through one more time here. Dragging this in. Boom, boom. I don't like that right there, so then I change it up. And then this is what becomes the final image here. And what's pretty cool about how I get to build all this out is that this Procreate app in my iPad, I started to use this back in my dog bandana business, back when I was like sketching out dog bandanas and trying to make my own designs. And I don't have like a lot of art skills. Like this is all basically just like me tracing. And then this Procreate tool has this really fun layering feature where like I can drag in different layers and just basically trace and then delete. So I'm not really drawing any of this. I don't have really any like Adobe skills, but I do have enough rough skills where I can trace, I can cut, I can erase, and I can basically build out an image that looks like this hat. So now let's get. All right, so final step in the process is that I then send that image to my hat company. And they've got, full designers there, a full design team that then builds the real mock-up. So what I like to do is basically give them like, I want to just say like, hey, make me this. And I want to give them an exact image of what I want to see. Because what I've learned now that I've done like almost 10 different merch projects is that it's very challenging for me to articulate what I want to see. And I don't really know the exact design language. Like, what are the descriptions that a designer wants to hear versus how am I just describing something and thinking that it's obvious? And I've run into things where it's like I give them some instruction and then all of a sudden what I get back is like totally not what I was envisioning. So I'm like, boom, let's just cut right to it and let me just draw exactly what I want to see. So they give me this back. I'm like, boom, man, this thing looks freaking legit. And this checks the boxes of what I was trying to accomplish with this project, which was one, move away from some of the pizzazz and all the multicolor options, move towards a real foundation type of hat that can be a part of the brand for a really long time. And then number three was like, get the branding right. So the colors that are used in this, we've got plain black, plain white as the base of the hat and the base of the Axe logo. But then we've got the correct Pantone colors with the background tribal markings, right? These are almost like a gray blue that I've got like an exact color Pantone for. And then also the orange. So the exact Pantone of the orange. And then boom, this is how this thing comes out. Boco's the company that I work with. They do an awesome job. I freaking love this hat. And this is exactly how all tribal training merch goes from start to finish. I approve the design, they ship it out, and next thing you know, I got a whole stack, right? I ordered a shit ton of these. So everybody inside of Tribal's already got one of these, but for the next, however many members keep showing up, they will be getting one of these as well. So that is what I